Introduction to A Woman Can Be Any Gender He Wants to Be by Lee Shevek, read to you by the author. A woman can be any gender he wants to be is a theoretical and personal exploration of patriarchy, masculinity, and gender liberation. Hello. Today, September 2023, I am Lee Shevek, she, her, a trans-masculine butch woman and anarcha-feminist. I am white, disabled by chronic pain and illness, and neurodivergent. Much of my written work has focused on theorizing about domestic violence, intimate authoritarianism, and insurgent survivorship. I have only published one essay, included in this zine, about gender specifically, and it is that oversight that I seek to rectify with this collection. My gender is illegible to most. That comes with inevitable feelings of alienation, but along with it I have always found such profound joy at transgressing gender, at being visible and unignorable in that transgression, of inhabiting a gendered space that puts tension on cis people's normally comfortable assumptions and beliefs about gender. I take testosterone and am seeking out top surgery to affirm my sense of my womanhood. I wear dramatic drag and play with femininity in ways that ultimately affirm my sense of my masculinity. I am a woman, I am non-binary, and my butchness encapsulates it all and connects me to a long and rich history of gender subversion as well as class struggle. Gender fuckery is a method of political agitation, and it is also a site of play and exploration, and often it is both. In this collection of essays, I theorize about patriarchy, masculinity, and gender liberation. As a butch, I have been told my entire life that masculinity is something that belongs to cis men, can only be performed correctly by cis men, and is a deviance to be punished and suppressed in anyone else. I have been told that I could not be both masculine and a woman, and my gender has been shaped in defiance to that. This collection is an expression of that defiance, an attempt to carve out more space for subversive masculinities, and an agitation against a theoretical flaw that runs uninterrogated throughout much of feminist theory. I'm taking back masculinity from cis men. It was never truly theirs to begin with. The first essay in this collection is a piece I wrote in 2021 titled Butch Anarchy. In this short essay, I connect butchness to the politics and values of anarchism and deny patriarchy's private property claim over masculinity. This personal piece remains very close to my heart and introduces some of the ideas I expand upon in the following three essays. In Masculinity, Contested Territory, I explore the inadequate but popular conceptualization in feminist theory of masculinity as being inherently patriarchal or otherwise interchangeable with patriarchy. I argue that the existence of subversive masculinities that are suppressed under the patriarchal system indicates a political conflict more complex than such a simplistic reduction allows. Cry Like a Fag, Scream Like a Woman is an essay about another common idea in much of feminist theory, that cis men are not allowed to express their emotions under patriarchy. In this piece, I argue that the prevalence of this idea is the values of patriarchy attempting to reconstitute themselves and ultimately misdiagnoses the problem, that cis men have anxiety not about their emotions in general, but how they can express them in ways that differentiate them from the gender marginalized and allow them to keep their standing among other cis men. Finally, in Gender Liberation, I articulate a strategy of resistance to patriarchy that centers the power of gender transgression and seeks to liberate the concept of gender itself from the enclosure of patriarchy. I argue that patriarchy has never been the only voice about gender, and declare my trans political project not to be the abolition of gender, but the abolition of cisness. Language and terms. Transgender. Mainstream understandings of transness tend to connect the word trans to transition. However, early trans theorists tended to see transgender as a much wider umbrella that included all forms of gender nonconformity. Transgender, in their theorizing, meant transgression, not transition. In a 1996 interview, Leslie Feinberg explained, "For me, transgender means transgressively gendered. That is, any kind of transgression against the mores and codes that would make up gender in the culture." In 1994, Susan Stryker defined it as all identities or practices that cross over, cut across, move between, or otherwise queer, socially constructed sex and gender boundaries. In my theorizing, this is the framework I use to understand transness and its location in our social world, with a focus on it as an act of transgression rather than inherently tied to the idea of transition. Mages. This term stands for marginalized genders and is intended to encompass all gender identities that are marginalized by patriarchy. I far prefer this term to the cursed and woefully inaccurate popular alternatives such as women and femmes or women and non-binary people or non-men, etc. GNC means gender non-conforming. In my work, I understand all trans people to be under the broader GNC umbrella. So while I frequently will speak about trans and GNC people, when I use a phrase like GNC women, I am doing so to refer to all gender non-conforming women, trans and intersex, not just masculine cis women.